Hello and welcome to our weekly IG Live. This is a new series that we just started a few weeks ago. And every Monday, usually at 2 p.m. Eastern, we are going to be talking to one of our members. We have so many member experts in different fields. Today we're going to be talking to Monica Olivera. She's of Mommy Maestra. Long time. You know that she actually did an IG Live with us a while ago. I think it's been a few years. We were doing an author series and
Hey,
we
Leanna,
featured
how are
her.
you?
Hello.
I'm doing all
Good.
right.
How are you
I gotta
doing?
get my glasses on. I can't see anything.
Well, thank you for being on with us again. I was just mentioning that I think you did an IG Live with us a few years ago, but that was when Francis was doing them, but about another book that you had written. I don't remember
I think
which
it
one that was.
I think it was probably my
Aida?
homeschool book for Hispanic families, Latino families. So, yeah.
Yes, that's what it was. And so people can go back. I am slowly putting all of our content, the old content, up on our YouTube channel. The new ones I'm putting up right away, and then I'm going to go back and put those old interviews. So you guys can watch for that. If you missed the previous interview, I will have that up on our YouTube channel in the next week or so you can see
It's
that.
nice
But
to
it's so
be
nice to
here.
talk
Thank you
to
very
you.
much for asking me. I'm excited and happy to discuss my new book.
Yeah, well, why don't we jump in and you can tell us about the book and also, you know, a lot of us know you as a blogger, and some people maybe would know you first as an author, but how did that come about? Were you always wanting to write? Did that kind of grow out of your work that you were doing in the education
Yeah,
field, or how did you become
so
an author?
in college, that's actually my major is English with a writing emphasis. And I don't think I knew what I was going to do with that at the time. I didn't expect to go, I wasn't planning, let me put it that way, to go and write a bunch of books or anything like that. I enjoyed creative writing and, it's just, it was a field that I liked doing. So I kind of moved on from there. But the actual writing kind of started whenever I started Mommy Maestra. And that was something I did because I suddenly found myself homeschooling my kids, and I couldn't find any resources at the time that related to Hispanics or Latinos homeschooling. And so I just thought, well, surely there's other people out there like me, so I'll just start documenting it and start going from there. And that's kind of how I did it. I think that I really enjoyed writing the blog, and a lot of it was just, sharing. And I think a lot of people, when they first get started with blogs, they're thinking about journaling and things of that nature. But, as I got more responses that came in from readers, I realized, this is important work, and this is something that's valuable in terms of encouraging parents. And I now find myself very focused um, on writing and passing on and teaching culture, because I feel like a lot of culture and history especially is not recognized. It's not covered, set definitely not covered in any kind of textbooks or anything like that. So after many years of writing Mommy and Maestra, I realized, hey, I have enough content here to put into a book that would be helpful for people who don't want to scroll through my blog and try and find stuff, but they need something kind of in an orderly progression. So that's what led to my first book, and started writing. And alongside that, I was doing a lot of work on TPT and selling a lot of educational materials there. And I really enjoy it. I like creating the printables. I like doing the research. So, that kind of led to a few more books. And then the fact that we could self-publish, and that it became a possibility, definitely opened things up. And now that I was finally approached by this publisher to create this new book, and I am very proud of the work that came out of it. So, yeah.
It is. It's a wonderful book. I've had a chance to read it, and but I just want to back up a little bit because for those that don't know, that Monica is one of the people behind a lot of the printables that we have for sale on Multicultural Kid Blog. So if you've enjoyed those, a lot of that is due to Monica's work. And for those of you who aren't familiar with her blog or her work on TPT, she does a lot of these really wonderful educational printables, a lot of which I can see leads right into this book, because you do a lot of short biographies of famous people, especially famous Latinos. And so can you talk a little bit more about, maybe for those who haven't seen the book yet, just give us an
Right.
overview of what the
I'm
book is
going to show
about?
you the cover here. Oh, I don't know if that's backwards from the camera, if you can see it right way. But anyway, it's called
That's
Latin Americans in History, and it features 15 inspirational people that were have been forgotten or overlooked by traditional textbooks. There are some people in here that we may know, but the book is written for 8 to 12-year-olds. So even though we might be familiar with some of the names like Dolores Huerta, Gloria Estefan, those names, Rita Moreno, those names might not be familiar to younger children and to younger audiences. So this is a way to continue that and continue passing on that knowledge. But there's also a lot of people in this book that I didn't even know about, and I really enjoyed researching and writing about. You're right, I do a lot of biographies, and that's one of my favorite things, is to research people and the contributions that they make. And so when I was asked to do this book, they're like, is this something you would like to do? And I'm like, yeah, this is what I do all the time. So of course I would love to. I did not choose the people that were in the book. The publisher did. Although they asked me, my opinion, and I think there was one or two that we kind of filtered out or switched out. But I think the greatest part about it is the diversity of people that are within this book. So the focus was really on Latin America. And although some of the people I mentioned are here in the United States, there's only, less than probably a handful of people that are in the U.S. of Latin American heritage. So the majority of the people in here in the book are, made a significant impact on their home countries in Latin America. So I think that, some of the names were a surprise to me, and I'm not really sure how the publisher chose the people. I'm assuming they have a research team maybe that just went through or something to that effect. But these people were really fascinating, and so I really enjoyed having to do the research to figure out who everybody was and what they did. In order to do that, in terms of research, I mainly went with primary sources as much as I could. I think that was kind of the cool part for me, is so many of the people in here have already passed away, but some of them lived long enough to give actual video interviews. The book itself is in chronological order. So some of them definitely died a long time ago and were nowhere near any kind of technology sources. So those required a lot of just historical research through different papers and books and articles and such. But I think listening to Guillo Perez give an interview and listen to his interview and just getting a feel for who the person was, I mean, he was enjoyable to watch. It was all in Spanish, so that was another extra bonus for me, because it always helps me to get exposure to Spanish, since I don't really have that very much where I live anymore. So all those experiences combined helped to put together this book, and there's some really wonderful, fascinating people that are inside it.
Are there any that you think would be particularly surprising? Either people, like you said, there's some people that maybe you didn't even know about when you started, or people that we're familiar with that maybe we didn't know the full history of what they've done. What do you think is going to be
Gosh, I don't know,
surprising
because
about
there's a lot of history in here and a lot of different people, and each one, even though we think we know everything about them, as you start reading, you start discovering, or doing the research, you start discovering, important aspects of their lives that maybe isn't public knowledge. But I'm trying to think of some that really stood out. I was researching Pope Francis for this book, and So one of the things that I read, I don't think I included it in the book, but one of the things that I read was that he was a bouncer. Now I don't know if that's true or not in a bar, and but before got his calling and went on to become a pope, but he had asked someone to marry him, and she said no at the time. He says, well, if you don't, I'm gonna become a priest. And so I guess he did. He followed through with that. That's according to her video that she states that. But yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff, and I think kids and adults both will actually enjoy reading this book. I say it's geared for 8 to 12-year-olds, but anyone older than that could definitely read the book and enjoy it. I mean, for older adults, it would be a quick read, but I think that there's extra stuff in here as well, such as little extra things asking, did you know, or how you can explore more, and links to different resources that you can use when you're putting this together or going through the book.
Yeah, I mean, as a homeschooler, that was something I really loved about it, is that you had, like you said, resources to explore more, and then activities, like things that people can do, and
Yeah.
which, as a homeschooler, of course, I love like the hands-on activity, but it was also a good way for, you think about students who are reading it to start thinking, because I think you really do a lot in the book to show how inspiring they were, and to help kids think about, okay, how can I apply this to what does this have to do with my life today? How can I think of myself as being like a world changer like these people were? So how did you come up with all of that activities, or kind of what
I
was your
think that I've
mindset
been
when you were doing
doing
that?
activity-based worksheets and packets and stuff for so long that it's just, you sit there, and as you read, you get inspired. Oh, this would be a good thing to add, or, maybe they should do this. For Jose Gervasio Artigas, he was a gaucho. This was back, before we had the individual countries down in South America, and it was still under the Spanish Empire, and he eventually becomes known as the father of Uruguay, or Uruguayan freedom. But when he was a kid, his parents sent him off to a religious school, and I don't think he lasted very long before he came back out. And I don't know if he was kicked out or if he was just like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. But it wasn't for him. So what his parents did instead was just sent him off into the Pampas region to become a gaucho. And he was basically learned how to work the land, because they had large estancias or ranches and stuff like that down there. And so he goes off and basically is raised by the gauchos. And I think to myself, any kid reading this, who doesn't want to be a gaucho? Because I mean, it's a basically like a South American cowboy sort of, but with its own distinct qualities and characteristics, and it just sounds so much fun. And in fact, one of my favorite picture books that I used to read to my children when when my older ones were younger, was on the Pampas, and it was such a good book about life on the Pampas. And so I think that things like that are included in the book, for worksheets, we couldn't find anything that was child friendly the way I wanted it to be. So I basically just put together a quick, I don't want to say a website, but I did Google Slides and turned it into like a little presentation that can just live forever. And you can click on that and it'll take you to, the attire that they wore and the tools that they used. And so that becomes a good activity for kids to do, to learn about, what was it like? What are the differences between like an American cowboy and a gaucho? So things like that.
Mm. I love that. And you're talking about how these stories are so, it's easy for kids to, the way you write it, it's easy for kids to kind of see themselves, or to find something that they can relate to in their lives. Like you said, like
Right.
who wouldn't want to go out and be a gaucho? And why do you think it's so important for them to learn these stories? I know you've mentioned that these are not ones that are taught in textbooks, that you don't really see in the classroom. Why is it so important for kids to know this history? I mean, obviously for Latino kids, but also for all kids to know
Yeah,
about these
it's
people.
important for all kids in terms of the fact that, once we get past Spain conquering and the conquistadores and things like that, we don't hear anything else about Latin American history. We don't study Simon Bolivar and all, you know, how he liberated all the countries from the Spanish Empire. We don't learn about the presidents, you know, or Rigoberta Menchú, for example. We just don't learn about the people that need to be taught. And you know, we have plenty of information on European history, world history, but it's silence when it comes to Latin American history. Nobody knows anything about what happens, you know, after that. So I think that's really important, because I know, first of all, we need to understand that it doesn't matter where you come from or what you look like. Everyone's valuable and everyone can make a contribution and everyone can have a major impact on world history, as well as the fact that we know studies have shown that, especially with Hispanic children, that when they learn about and are proud of their heritage, they do so much better in school. They are less likely to drop out, less likely to do drugs. They're less likely to be incarcerated. They're less likely to have any kind of issues, because it all boils down to self-worth. And if you're proud of who you are and what you've done, you know, in your heritage, and the people who have come before you and what they have done, and you understand that I can do amazing, great things too, I think that's incredibly important. So.
Oh, I love that. I mean, that just is so clear, and especially I hadn't realized that as far as statistics, that does make it what a difference it makes in the lives of the kids. Not just they feel good about themselves, but what a
Mm-hmm.
difference it makes in their futures if they have
Yeah.
kind of this sense of pride in their heritage. And what kind of response have you gotten so far to the book? I know it just released, wasn't
Yeah.
it just on the
Yeah, it
6th, I
just came
think,
out
that it came?
recently, and everyone that I have talked to about it like it. And I mean, I hope everyone loves it. I would love to see more reviews go up on Amazon, because you know those reviews really help a book to be successful and show up in their search engines. But you know, I'm happy to talk to anyone about the book and to explore it more, because it's a really great resource. And yeah, you know, I, people write books and they're proud of them. I'm really proud of this, because I just think it's really wonderful for kids to have. So, our families.
It is. And I was one of the people that got to review the books, which is why I wanted to interview you. And it's a really wonderful book. It's a great resource for a classroom, for a homeschool. And like you say, even older people, I had so much fun reading it. Like for me, it was just, like you say, for an adult, it can be a quick read, but it's things that, you know, that people I had never heard of, or as you mentioned, people that I thought I knew, but then I'm finding out new things about them. It's a really fun read. And I think students will also enjoy reading it. Like you said, I think it's important for them to know this kind of history. And I was also wondering, what are you working on now? Do you have more books in the works, or is
So
it
right
something you're
now,
kind of
my
thinking
main
about?
focus is creating a curriculum to go with the book. So my plan is to put together an online course, and I've been going through. I have kind of an overarching lesson plan that can be used with each chapter, but now I'm going through each chapter and designing lesson plans specifically for each one, and finding activities and fun things to do that relate back somehow, and that cover different subjects. So geography obviously is going to be one of them, but history, language arts, science, and putting it all together.
That is wonderful. I'm excited to see that. And
Thank you.
thank you so much for coming on and talking with us, taking the time. If you
Sure.
haven't, can you show us the cover again? If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. It's a really wonderful book. And as we had mentioned at the beginning, she's also written a book for Latinos who are homeschooling, or check out Mommy Maestra. She has so many resources available
Yeah.
on her
Thank
blog
you
as well.
so
Thank
much,
you for
Leanna.
joining
I
us.
appreciate it. Thank you. Bye bye.
All right, take care.